forget to subscribe if you haven't, like the video, hit the notification bell, but most importantly, comment below what your thoughts are on maybe the most high auteur art film to have come out in 2025. And as you are also doing so, please consider, if you haven't already, following my Letterboxd. That is where I log every movie I watch, and I make sure to at least say something for every single thing I've seen. I love it. It's what I use before I hit the record button. It's amazing. Now, let's hopefully follow in that same trend, because we have a lot to talk about today. Because with FNAF, or at least on Cinephile ASMR's video reviewing this movie, it is not just any ordinary film, but one that is from a franchise that raised me. But I'm so sorry, I am hastily jumping ahead of myself. I know through the brainwaves you are asking me, hey yo, Cinna, what is Five Nights at Freddy's 2 about? Almost 1 year after the catastrophic events of the first, you follow Mike, Vanessa, and Abby in the same town that they were in the first movie. As what had happened a year prior is almost celebrated. It has its cult following, but with it, they have not left those events either. Vanessa is still struggling with her mental anguish and debilitating trauma that her father, William, left her, while Mike and Abby are trying to rebuild their relationship, but Abby is still so tied to the animatronics and everything that has happened to her. And let's just say the animatronics, William Afton, and many, many more are not through with them either. I am 22 years old. I was born in 2003. I'm a Taurus. That doesn't really bear any relevance to this, but I was at what I believe to be the primal, primitive, sort of animalistic era where I was this feral monster of a kid that was looking to really consume anything and everything. While that sort of ambition and hunger drove me into some very dark corners. A little known YouTuber by the name of Markiplier uploaded his first Let's Play in August of 2014, and I'll forever remember laying on my stomach on my bed at like 1 in the morning with my iPad that probably had grease stains from bagel bites and drinking a bunch of high red 40 drinks that I shouldn't have. And I remember watching him play the first Five Nights at Freddy's almost like it was yesterday. And what's even scarier is I'm almost twice the age now, and I feel like I'm even more excited for these movies. But I watched, and I'll never forget, every single minute I got goosebumps, and I would have to turn around because I had to keep my door open, and I was so scared my parents were going to walk in. That was informative. That was foundational for me. And since then, every single year, a little guy named Scott Cawthon would have the persistence of a stallion, and he would release game after game after game after game. And then, lo and behold, we have a franchise that I think is at this point 20 games deep, spanning VR, modern gen, old gen, PC, mobile. It's madhouse. But for me, there was something so lightning in a bottle about the Five Nights at Freddy's games 1 through 4. And as I got older, I drifted. I fell kind of away from that what I would consider to be true hyperfixation. It was all I wanted and all I really enjoyed. And I drifted. And that was sort of the first sort of pillar. If you've ever played any of those choose your own adventure games, that was like the first like choice that had ramifications and sort of implications. Then, and I will not get too deep into detail here, I was hit by a car. There's really no segue into that. But in October of 2023, since the whole legal battle of it all kind of simmered, and I have since grown from it, and I have healed. But a car did hit me. I was on a bicycle. I had the right of way. They weren't looking. 9 screws and a plate in my right leg, and physical therapy and rehabilitation, and a gnarly scar to tell stories of for ages. I am better now, but October of 23, there was a stint where surgery had happened, and they hadn't really assessed, because I was in the biggest boot ever, whether I was going to ever fully be able to walk assuredly again on that leg. That was one of the scariest times of my life. You know, I've always said one of my biggest fears is going blind. Film is my language, and everything I interpret, all the love that I have, I think is through my eyes. But when I realized that I may not ever fully walk again, or that thought lingered, there was some dark corners. Now, FNAF released around that same month, the first movie, and I think I had saw like one movie in theaters prior to that. I was in crutches. I was a mess. But I went to go see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and it was midway through the film. I was having a blast. Then I realized like this sudden epiphany, not because of the movie itself, but because my brain just came up with the thought that I may not have been able to watch a movie again. I could have died. And everyone had told me, and my family, my friends, that, oh my God, it's a miracle that you're alive. And I knew that. But I think when it then transpired into what I know best, which is movies, I literally almost cried in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And I always look back on it and even take that away, the rose-tinted glasses of childhood hyperfixation, the near-death experience, realizing that art could have been taken from me. I think it's a banger movie. I think it adapts itself very well and structures itself around the medium of film. People are like, it's not like the games. What are you talking about? Like, do you want a movie where a guy is sitting in a booth for 5-6 nights and like what? I don't understand that. I think the script, the acting, the execution for $20 million, which is a lot, but in the grand scheme isn't too much, did its job. I've seen it many, many times. It's a comfort movie for me. But I'm walking on 2 feet. I'm not 12 years old, and this movie is getting wrung through the mud. Holy hell. But Jason Blum of Blumhouse, Emma Tammy, the director, even the actors have said, these are the films for fans. I'm a fan. When I watched the first, I literally got so heavy back into the lore. I even played Security Breach. That game's a mess, but I have so much fun with it. And so all I was looking for was to get that same sort of flicker in me, that then I would light a match, get a torch, and paint my own canvas again of hyperfixation. And so I sat in the theater, nearly sold out theater, on a Thursday night. And let's just say my hands raised and my spring locks were activated, and I said, absolute cinema. This is going to be a video that is marred with a lot of my personal influence, not just feelings, but it's my channel. So when I say I'm going to give this movie a pass, I don't think I've ever really reviewed a movie and said, hey, I'm going to give it a pass. Because if I take off my smudged glasses from Bagel Bites in Red 40, and I put on my adult cleaner glasses that still has the occasional grease of peanut M&Ms, because I'm an adult and I still like my fatty foods, it's not the best movie. I will say, actually, we're going to reverse it a little bit, talking about flaws, ones that don't even breach beyond the fun, the stuff that kind of sinks. I think this movie, first and foremost, is not nearly as engaging of a script as the first. Neither of them are doing deep character analyses or dissections of emotionality and kind of thinking on the human experience. It's Five Nights at Freddy's, for God's sake. But what I will give the first is it attempts to make an engaging thesis, an entryway into understanding Mike Schmidt, his struggle, what he goes through, and what Vanessa is going through. Now, there is moments in the second that really do feel like a successor to what is being done in the first. But man, I think this movie really does prioritize the thrills, the scares, the production design, and a lot of things I'll get into very well that it does. But there are a few moments where I'm like, okay, whoa, what are we doing? Because I do think what this movie does, actually, I'm not going to say what this movie does best. There's just moments where I was sitting, and especially between Vanessa and Mike, their relationship feels like meeting at checkpoints that are existing to lily pad to the final destination is setting up what the third film is going to be. Without specifying who in the dynamic, there is a reaction and kind of a build-up to the reaction at the end between their dynamic, where I sat there and I was like, whoa. At first I was like blindsided. I was like, what the hell? And thinking more on it, I can understand to a certain extent how valid the reaction was. I just don't think the movie earns it. And when you spend a lot of time fleshing the characters out from the first, trying to build their relationship in the second, there's just things and stuff that is said or not said, and that can bite their dynamic in the butt pretty bad. And I was like, okay, doesn't really make much sense. And I think the acting does suffer as a result of the more inferior screenplay. They're not bad in it. I think Josh Hutcherson and Elizabeth Leal are good. I shout out the actress who plays Abby Piper Rubio. She's not great in the movie, but you can tell, and I have no way other to describe this than she looks like she wanted to be there. Shout her out. But yeah, the screenplay just isn't nearly as strong, and it's unfortunate because I'm not going to say the first one's a masterpiece, but it's just a lot more messy. With that being said, though, I mean, you go to a Five Nights at Freddy's movie for lore and kills and animatronics. Boom, boom, boom. And I think what works the best is they're not trying to be the games, but in fact, kind of a summation of what the games do best, while paving their own sort of iconography and world, kind of combining several characters' motives and putting them into certain characters, or switching them or altering them. So when I hear people get upset when the comment is made, oh, these movies are for the fans, and then the response to that is, these aren't even like the games, what I think works so well is it's as if Scott Cawthon knew that he had to do things differently and almost starts creating an alternate reality version of Five Nights at Freddy's with new sort of angles to the lore that you can pick apart. I grew up with Five Nights at Freddy's before then, just a little bit, and I shouldn't have been exposed to this at the age I was. There was an ARG called Marble Hornets that brought kind of Slender Man to the focal point. And for me, I'm not going to really call FNAF an ARG of sorts, but there is sort of ideas and like an approach to how like ARGs take real world events and settings and be a bit vague, and so you kind of let the community make something bigger of it than it is, or that's the intent all along. And I think it's really funny because I have always found FNAF to be like a pseudo ARG where, and people give Scott Cawthon way too much credit, people like MatPat and people who have done sections hour long of lore and make videos about it really have the implications be the thing that make your mind go crazy. In my opinion, I think FNAF was like made by Scott Cawthon and people like Matt Bad. That's not an issue. I think that's the beauty of it. And when you watch something like Five Nights at Freddy's 2, you get the animatronics, you get the kills, and the lore. I talked about the lore, the animatronics, man. Holy hell. I think we really do not acknowledge two very big things about Five Nights at Freddy's, the movies 1 and 2. The fact that the Jim Henson shop, the creature shop, the people who are in charge of like the Muppets, the Dark Crystal, are making live animatronics. And not only that, they are utilized 90% of the time the movie is going. That to me in 2025, in the era of AI, in the era of we'll just fix it in post, that is craftsmanship. And to me, it's even more grand this time around. They got a bigger budget, nearly twice the size of the first. The thought would be, let's just slap some CGI on it. No, the old animatronics, the withered animatronics, the toy animatronics, all the marionette, it is real. And that is something you can easily tell the difference of. If you say you can't, subconsciously you can. It rocks, and it looks so damn good. Now obviously the movie has to be PG-13, but I think what director Emma Tammy, and that's my second big thing that people don't realize, this franchise is directed by a woman. That's awesome. I think to me, especially for horror, having people of all different kinds of ethnicities, of communities, of gender, all coming together to give their spin on a story is why horror matters. It's why it's maybe the only genre that is flourishing by putting originality first, is because it craves having different demographics really try. And Emma Tammy, I think, does a pretty damn good job. The set pieces feel far more fleshed out. The production design, holy crap, I know the blueprint is already sort of created for them. It does not undercut the fact, though, that these sets are amazing. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria in this movie, it gave me chills. It was so accurate, but also just felt like such a great adaptation by expanding what the game couldn't do, and then when it does what the game does do. Look, man, seeing this movie in a theater with a big crowd, people were cheering like it was Avengers Endgame, but I was in on it. I'm completely shameless in admitting I was one of those people. And I think this movie, while of course filled with issues, it's cheesy, it's campy, it's jump scare ridden, I think it does exactly what I appreciated the most about the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, at least the first 4, is that it understands tone and atmosphere, but it also gives illusions, but also really good nuggets of core information that will feed your brain to building out this world. And it's a different world from the games, but it's just a fun time, man. I get it, you know? I think there is this unique uptick of franchise films that are geared towards a younger audience this year specifically. Like, every year you've had the Disney heavy hitters. From like 2020 on, you've had the live action movies that are terrible and soulless but make a lot of money. But this year, interestingly, with movies like the Minecraft movie and Five Nights at Freddy's, there is very much things to be concerned about. Movie theater etiquette was kind of thrown out the window in aspects. I think that's something that can be sort of curbed, and as we grow, I think we can go back to what that was pre-pandemic. But there is something beautiful about it, an elegance that in the era of Netflix buying Warner Brothers and the monopoly of streaming trying to dominate its footprint you're seeing people dressing up, going as a group, friends coming together to watch a movie, going to McDonald's and getting the meal, going to Popeyes and getting the meal, all for the sake of togetherness and just enjoying the moment. You go on social media, especially TikTok, and it is a nostalgia fuel pump. It knows where to tug at for you. And what I think is very interesting, and something that I think I haven't really talked about enough, is, for me, when like TikTok first came out, it was a lot of people my age at the time, 17, 18, being nostalgic about like Xbox 360, Black Ops 2 days, hanging out on your bike and chilling out when you're like 10, 11, 12, middle school. Now, there are people feeling nostalgic and reminiscent for things that happened the same year they're feeling nostalgic for it. And I think a lot of it is the at your finger disposal of so much more of an influx of information, but also the world just isn't the same. Things are more expensive. We have the clown of an abhorrent human being as president. Everything is so intense, and to turn away from it is a privilege that many just don't have. My point in saying this is, a year and a half ago, it was like, man, people are not showing up. People are rather spending their time at home on Discord calls, gaming, watching movies, staying safe. Rightfully so. You need to stay safe. But like, now it's this thing where I think people want to hang out with others. Pandemic happened, and the ramifications of it have ruined a lot of etiquette in the approach. But a movie like Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is bringing people together to cosplay, to spend their own money to not only see a movie, but dress up, cosplay, go out, have food, break bread, and maybe I'm reading too deep into this, but holy shit, I think that's beautiful. And it also just so happens to really, again, fuel the flame of wanting to watch all the MatPat videos, because ultimately, and what I'm linking back to is, again, critics have bashed this movie. A lot of people are hating it. A lot of people are mad at it. But for the reason that I just spent minutes talking about, which is this full circle from a pandemic to now, people want to live in happiness and comfort and togetherness. And I think the people that you see that dress up, that love this franchise, and myself, I'm not trying to speak on everyone's behalf, it's because we want to live the glory days, but also it is a wonderful community, and it's something that I don't think I'll ever fully wrap my head around. FNAF is maybe one of the biggest communities to bring in neurodivergent people and queer people in a way that just I've never seen. And maybe it's because the franchise is so dark and rooted in trauma that there is a catharsis in experiencing it, especially the trauma of a child, and the fact that art can be so healing. But I think that's why I loved it. It came at such a great time where it was scratching the gateway horror itch, where I wasn't watching like all the Conjuring movies and all the scarier stuff, but it was scary enough for me as a kid. I mean, still to this day, I think the first one has an atmosphere untouched, and I get to experience that again in movie form. Yeah, to a more cheesy and what are we doing chat sort of way, but like, this is kind of what movies are about. And yeah, it's taking the second Five Nights at Freddy's movie to surmise that maybe we are healing, but also maybe it's me coping. It's like every time we take a step forward, them opening more movie theaters, more good movies being made, more good movies making money and being seen. Uncle Sam and capitalistic greed tries to tear at our throats. I'm not going to say Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is going to be the solution. I think we are, and we speak with our wallets, and we have to show up. I love this movie. I'm gonna say it like all these words to say. I loved it. I had a great time. And I get it, like, this isn't even like I love the first, and it isn't even the kind of film where people are like, you love that movie. I don't need to go to bat for it because I get it. They're not very good movies. They're filled with issues. They're not as scary as they could be. They're not as gory as they could be. But I have the biggest shit-eating grin as I watch them. I mean, I'm literally the Cocomelon kid when I see thick-thighed Chica. I'm like, nah, 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 nah. Or like when I see like all the other animatronics or the withered one and then the Marion, and I'm like, like, okay. I truthfully, I could say all these things defending it, or I could say all these things critiquing it. Who cares, man? It made me shrink a couple feet and be that same damn 11 to 12-year-old watching them on my iPad and feeling some form of, at the time I couldn't explain it, catharsis and therapy. And I think it was hugely formative for me in a way that I am here recording this video because of it. And despite me thinking it is definitely an inferior screenplay compared to the first, I think the movie does pose some really fun concepts. The town itself, having this festival that is commemorating the events that happened, the animatronics, and they're all dressing up. Like, it definitely doesn't dive into it, you know, but like, that concept feels very reminiscent of like the way Wes Craven made Scream and the sequels commenting on the first, and pop culture again. I am not giving the screenplay credit here, but I just think it's cool. I think it's a lot of fun, you know. Matthew Lillard, I wish was in it more. Skeet Ulrich being a part of it was a lot of fun. And yeah, like, despite me thinking the core of the film, I think, shifts a bit more into Mike and Vanessa as opposed to Mike and Abby, like from the first. I wish there was a bit more there. Because while I understand the intent behind how their relationship evolves from the beginning to the end, I wish we got a bit more consistency, because it asks you to sympathize, but then also not, if that makes sense, because it is working with such extremes. If you've seen it, I think you know what I'm talking about. But I think the third one is going to be fascinating. Again, they really operate by like taking bits and pieces of the multiple different games, like Sister Location even. So even though, and I really hope we do, we'll get a FNAF 3, which is my least favorite out of the first 4 games, it is by far the most ripe for atmosphere and tone. We're also going to, based off of what it sets up, get quite a bit more. Shout this movie out though. That opening to Gangster, very different in ways from the original lore. I thought it worked. It set the tone perfectly. It's crazy. Again, I just had so much fun. And in an era where everything is CGI'd or glossed over in post, this is a movie that is kind of built in its pre-production and production. I think Emma Tammy ripped. I think she does a lot different with how she especially works with dream sequences. I thought there was one that was really, really great. I had a blast. You know, it is the truest definition of, do I start the cut and start working out, get lean, fit, and healthy? Oh shit, do I eat that greasy ass burger? That's gonna be bad for me. But man, I love the hell out of it, and I ate that greasy burger down. So with all that being said, shout out Megan Fox as Toy Chica. Shout out Matt Pat as Toy Bonnie. This movie's just so much fun. It is like, I feel like getting the golden ticket into Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. So even with a pretty bad script, some very questionable performances, Piper Rubio, you are exempt. You're so much fun. You look like you are just excited to be there even more than the fans are to watch. Some good scares, some great tension, wonderful production design, a score that I was jumping and swinging my feet to, and a setup I'm so excited for. I'm gonna give Five Nights at Freddy's 2 a B. Look, this is far and away my most, like, hear me out sort of video, because it isn't good, but it's amazing, you know? But it's also like my channel, and it's my feelings, and I will always be the firmest believer. Dude, guilty pleasure shouldn't be a term that exists. The moment you feel guilty for enjoying something as simple as art, but is so beautiful and intricate that sometimes you can't even explain why, you've lost the plot. Love what you love for the sake of it. I had a great time. I cannot wait to add it onto my shelf. Again, questionable stuff. Some very big moments where you're like, hey, I'm suspending my belief here. But it's like, lore accuracy aside, if you really have to ask yourself, wait, how in a movie with talking animatronics, my brother in Christ, go back to like the children's table during Thanksgiving. That's where you belong, okay? You don't get to eat and feast with us kings and queens. I'm just kidding. But I really hope you enjoyed. Sorry if I got a bit too like in my own head. I was really thinking about that, partially because when the credits rolled for the movie, I did see the news about the Netflix acquisition, and I was like, shit, man. We can't have anything good, can we? But hey, we got FNAF 2. Go check it out, friends. I'm pretty certain we're gonna get a sequel. I think the opening weekend nearly did double its budget, so I cannot wait. I love you guys. It's weird, you know, like even on the down days, I cannot wait to record for you guys most of the time. Some days, like, it just feels debilitating. But not because of anything you do, just all mental. But I had a great time. I was a kid again, and maybe you can too. Bring your frickin' friends. This is the perfect opportunity. Like, what you should do, go to a friend's house, boot up the MatPat Five Nights at Freddy's one entire, like 2.5 hour video, watch it, stop it, go watch the second, come back, watch his stuff from the second beyond, or by that point, you can have a bunch of new theorists talking about the new updated lore changes that the second movie has, and it's gonna be peak. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't, please subscribe, my friends. I want to end this year with a bang. Man, oh my god, it is like, oh my god, it is almost the end of the year. Holy crap. I haven't even thought about like what I want to do for like a final 2025 video. My best of the year video, I kind of wait until February to do to catch up on all the movies. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I don't want to spoil the fun. I love you guys. Above all else, though,